So whatever your dislikes are is what causes you to move yellow, red. So we talk about going from left to right. So let me give you some basic, before we do that, we got a video clip. It's a great clip from The Office about movement. Remember, so what we start out in our first position, we're different in our second position, and we're different in our third position, depending upon the position that you're in, right? You can see people make different choices, and so we want to play this clip for you.
I have a mission to accomplish. Make sure this party gets rolling, and I will be back shortly.
Ew. Where are you going? You want me to come with? Oh. Just listen, I forgot to tell you the plan for this Saturday. You, me, bar, beers, buzzed, wings, shots, drunk, waitresses, hot, football, Cornell Hofstra, slaughter, then quick nap at my place, and we hit the T-Sound.
No, I don't want to do any of that.
Duh. Which is why I was joking about doing it.
Just stop. Just stop doing it. You're going to drive me crazy.
Fine, I'll just go sit at my desk and be quiet. Sorry I annoyed you with my friendship. Excuse me. And I'm also sorry that a lot of people here, for some reason, think it's funny to steal someone's personal property and hide it from them. Here's a little news flash. It's not funny. In fact, it's pretty freaking unfunny. Ow! That was an overreaction. Gonna hit the break room. Does anybody want anything? Pam, you good?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Movement, right? I mean, did you see him move? Like go from one to another, and then what did he do? Come back to what? Yeah. So we're going to give you a couple of things here on movement. So movement takes place when there's a dislikes over time. So depends on, we call it stress, we call it distress. It depends on the intensity of it. Movement takes place over time, duration. It doesn't mean that just because I'm mean to you one time means you're going to go to yellow with me. No, we're not saying that at all. But if I ended up doing that every time I saw you, you'd probably avoid me, or I've already you don't like me, so you could be yellow with me, but you may not tell me, so I don't know. So duration over time. We just believe it takes place. Then we talk about snapback. So Stephanie and I are in an argument. I don't know if you guys ever argue with your spouse, but I do. So we're in an argument, and we're at it, and we're not hollering, we're not fist blowing, we're just intense. Do you guys ever get intense? I get intense, okay? No. And she's intense with me, and when that happens, it's intense. And the phone rings, her phone. Like, hello? I'm like, what the crap? It's like that. Like, who are you, right? Has a phone call, like especially if it's like Rosalind or something, or somebody she likes, like, hangs the phone up, and what? Snaps back right at me. So I said, I know how to do this. So next time we got this intense argument, I already had my phone on speed dial. I called my wife. Hello, hey, how are you? No, I'm just playing. No, but snap back, right? So sometimes I can be at you, I can go back to be somebody else, and then I can come back at you. That's one form of snapback. Another thing of snapback is that I've had this piece of conflict with you before. I'm in yellow. Let's just say I'm in yellow with you. And because I've done that 5 or 6 times, it didn't take much the next time for me to get back to that same intensity really quick. Right? We can move. So we talk about movement. I'll just give you some things to consider. Movement position can vary, okay? And so what we're trying to say to you here is that it's not always with a person that makes me move. Or, right, different relationships. I can be yellow with you, or I can be green with you. I can be green with my spouse, and I can be yellow with my child. I can be green with my spouse, and I can be yellow with my commander. So we can be in different positions with different people in our lives. And depending upon your sequence, you may end up reacting differently from each person. There's some of you in here that you gave us an example earlier when your pastor in your old job called you, what did you really want to do? Not even talk to him. Right? You said, every time that I talk to him. What has David said about his XO? Internally, what happens to him? So is David green or yellow with the XO? Yeah, we're just trying to say probably yellow. So we're teaching that you can be in, have different relationships and be in a different position within your sequence. Depending upon what your position is, has a lot to do with what kind of choices that you're making with that person. You guys understand that concept, right? So anybody have a relationship right now, raise of hands, that doesn't mean you're bad, doesn't mean you're fighting, it just means that you're yellow. Anybody yellow in one of your relationships in your life? I mean, my hand's up, I'm yellow, okay? Okay, anybody have anybody that you're green in? Yeah. So that's all that we're trying to say. Movement is not only have to do with relationships, it has to do with environment. So I could be at work and I'm intense, it's pressured, and I go back home, I'm green with them, but I walk in and I'm yellow. Has nothing to do with my family. Has everything to do with other things that's going on. How about my finances are jacked up? Does that impact me? What if my health's not good? Does that impact me? So there's other things in our life that causes us to move into a different position than just people. It's your environment. So I want you to write down on a piece of paper one thing for me, okay? What is one thing in your life? It could be a person specifically that they do to you, or it could be something, a topic in your life, like a conflict in parenting. It could be money, it could be health, that could move you to yellow. Like it really gets you, when that happens, it's just not good for you, okay? I gave you a few examples. It could be environment, it could be your job, Bobby's retiring, right? Not knowing something could like get me to yellow. Could be when money is less. It's when the child or my wife have problems. It sort of gets me. What is that one thing in your life? And I have more than one. Okay, David said he has several. So what would be the one or two things that automatically like? So I'm not going to have you fold these up. I'm going to see if some of you would just share it, okay? And you may not be willing to share, and that's okay. But I'm going to pass the box around, and we'll just sort of talk, all right? Who wants to talk?
So just say what it is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, money.
Money, okay? Something else. For you.
Me perceiving that someone's publicly disrespecting me. which has, sometimes it's been actual, sometimes it's just been perceived.
Okay, good. That's really good. Somebody else, for you.
Not feeling cared for / loved and feeling attacked.
Pass it to David, and then we'll come back to Josh, David. Nice.
You like those moves, didn't you?
Incompetency at
Incompetence.
the workplace.
And what?
At the workplace.
Okay. Josh.
Passive aggressive behavior.
Set me off. Just sets me off.
Set you off. That's good.
Go for it, Will.
No, I didn't. Thanks.
Okay, somebody else. David?
Alabama fans.
Hey, yeah, that's good. Somebody else. Somebody else. What gets you to yellow? Anything else? Okay. Let's keep going. So I've already said it. We saw in that office clip that he moved, and did he make different choices? Did he communicate things differently? Did our tone come out differently? I'm that way. Okay, and I believe everybody moves according to who you are, and your choices are different, the way you communicate differently than you do in your first position. We've already talked about that not all movement is bad. We've already talked about that. There's some strengths, and when we move, we get to do things that we normally don't do. We get things done, right? Some of us are more caring. There's all kinds of things that takes place when we're moving. What we also say is that when movement occurs, connection is more challenging. So up until this point, and we are trying to teach you, is that we want you to connect with their first two letters. If you can connect and avoid the first two letters of conflict, we believe that you'll be more green in that relationship. But what takes place, do we always live in our first two letters? I don't always live in my first two letters. So class, this is Bobby. And his first position, what have we learned about Bobby? CR. What's the C mean? Love, kind, caring for his family. And he's rational, right? Analytical. Is he a fast decision maker or a slow decision maker? What question does Rebecca need to ask? CRs, and I've told Josh this the other day, who's married to CR, right, Josh? That sequence says, I don't know. A lot, right, Josh? And you and Rebecca are the same, first two letters. Can't imagine that, correct? But don't be careful with Bobby, because if he moves to his second position, is his letters head letters or heart letters? Head letters. So does Bobby make different choices? He does, right? He becomes R-O. Yes.
If I come home and the house is spotless, what did I do?
And your wife is what?
Yeah, the same.
Guess what my wife does when she is stressed? The same. We're married to the same sequence. And Bobby and Rebecca would tell you this, and the guys, if I come home and Stephanie has a list, I'm screwed. Not really. But what does that let me know about her? I'm coming home to not good for her. Okay? So we want to teach you when movement occurs, connection is more challenging. We're just introducing some basic things to movement.
On the flip side of that coin, if I make a purposeful decision that I'm going to move, does it then facilitate connection? I'm going to move to, if someone's opposite of me, I'm an O first. If I move to, and I'm C last, if I move to someone who's C first, if I purposefully move that, is that going to make?
Not necessarily. No, you're trying to be intentional at connecting there. That's way different. Yeah, good question, right? I'm intentional trying to tell Mark, move my E up. For you, we're trying to help you move your C up to connect with that other person, right? You're in the process of connecting, okay? So we want to teach you here, recognition is key. For 3 days, we've taught you recognizing your first 2 letters. So go to your digital training platform. You got likes, you got dislikes, you got perceptions. All that's first 2 letters. And we've taught you today, here's the letters, here's how you connect with the first 2, and then we've talked about types of conflict. So stay away from these things so that you can connect. So right now, when we talk about movement, we're just trying to get you to recognize that movement exists, why it exists, okay? And there's attributes to each position within a sequence. So when they're making choices or that person's behaving differently, we just want you to tune in, right? Just say, hey, they're sort of making different choices. They're a little different. I believe it can be preventative. David, can you just give a quick example? Can you just give a quick example? So hold on. Before you, I'm going to call you in a minute about what you shared about your daughter. You sort of shared it, but I want to bring it back about her cleaning. Okay. So we want you to tune in. We just want you to say, if you tune in, it's preventative with that alone, right? So if I know my daughter's sequence, and I know that she's doing something different than she normally does when she's green, then it just gives me awareness. I just gave an example of Stephanie with her task list. 2 weeks ago, I came home and she had a task list. That's all I needed to see, because Stephanie, with being 03rd, does she do task lists normally? No. Now, does that mean I'm in trouble? No. It just means that what? Me being gone created her to be what? Green or yellow? Yellow. So what's my responsibility? Do the task list that she's come up with to get her back. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. But I'm just trying to introduce this preventative. We're not asking you to be an expert about this today. You don't have to be an expert in recognizing something. We're just having you to recognize it. So I want to do 3, Joe and Michael and I talked last night, and we wanted to do 3 examples in the class of me showing you what I'm talking about of people in the room. So can I take one of you as an example? Huh? Okay, good. All right. So I'm just going to talk you through what I know. And I just want you to listen and watch. So with David being in his first position, he's OR. He needs a plan, organization, and details matter to him. He doesn't like to be late. Right, Josh? This is you too, right? His R second, so he needs to be rational and analytical. This 2 letters carries a lot of responsibility. They can do a lot of things. And they like to be in control. They like things their way. Most of the time, things are organized and clean for them. But throughout their whole sequence, they're not always organized and clean. But in this position, they're most likely they would be. If they end up finding themselves losing control, whether at work or at home, they could end up moving here. And when they go RC, they could end up firing off verbally to their friends and family because they're losing control. So don't think that the C's there, that makes them loving. I really think coming out of an OR would make them verbally like, pal, I'm trying to get you to do what I want, so I'm trying to control you even more. Is that right, Josh? Okay, David? When it comes to decision making, these people need information, details, and a plan that makes sense. If you give them both, they're going to make a quick decision, because this is Rebecca, right, Rebecca? So I got a female, same sequence, and she's agreeing with me at the moment. And Rebecca, with Todd, could end up firing away right here, trying to control more, because these people need respect. So if people disrespect them, they don't really like it. So if they try to grab control and they lose, it ends up moving them to their last position, here. And that's when they say, whatever, I don't care, I'm over. Josh just did that. And so what I say about this sequence is that if the sequence is fighting, they're loving. The way they fight, though, is somewhat destructive. But when they quit fighting, they're what? Over. So how accurate was I, Josh?
100%.
David?
Yeah, I have a question, but.
Shoot. Rebecca? Okay. So let me say this. Oh, David. Yes. Yeah. It does. Go. So we're not asking you to be an expert at what I just did. We're not asking you to do that when you leave here. We're just trying to show you something that we're going to show you something in just a minute. But go ahead.
So everything you said in the green is true if I care about it. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
Like, so if I don't care about whatever event we're going to, I don't care if I'm late. I don't care
Yes.
if there's details or whatever. Like, it's almost like if I don't care about something, I'm already starting off at my whatever position, like last position.
Yeah, if you don't value it, then it's not on your radar
Yeah.
anyway. You probably
So-
won't go anyway.
So if I show up late to your event, you know where I stand.
Or hold on, or maybe something at home's keeping you, right? I mean, if he's fighting to get there on time, then it matters. That's what he's saying. Okay, that's one example. Let me just show you another example. Okay? So I need somebody else in the room to let me use you as an example. MG?
CERO.
Okay. So I'm talking about movement, okay? And you guys can pick up on some of what I'm saying. Just try to pick up on it. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down some of the things that you pick up that I'm saying because we've already taught you this. So you can just write down, I'm about to say he's loving. So if you get that, just write loving because you knew that you could say that, right? Again, we're not trying to make you an expert here. We're just trying to get you to recognize something. So what's your responsibility as a class right now? What's your homework assignment when I'm doing this one? Huh? Write down the things that I say that you got, that you understood why I said it. Okay? So I'm just going to go through each letter, through each position, and you write down like, oh, I know why you said that. Okay? Again, we're not trying to make you me, And I'm going to show you why, because you don't have to do that. We're going to give you. Okay, MG is a loving, kind, caring guy. That's all in your digital training platform under likes. Who likes to have fun. Right? And relationships matter to him. Since it's O's last, we know money's not really, he's not a big planner. If he is going to plan, I believe if he's going on vacation, he could be a planner because he's going to plan all the fun with his family and get all the fun in it. Okay? But on the most part, he's a loving, kind, caring guy. He's a double heart guy, so he could end up having a probability or a propensity of avoiding conflict. Is that right? And he avoids conflict because he naturally cares so much about the relationship. But if you criticize him and you're rude to him, dislikes. MG could end up going to his second position, which could be a quick trigger pull position, right? He could end up having impulsive action, right? And you could end up, based on your sequence, really firing away verbally to that person who crossed you. So this loving guy just what? Fired away. And he doesn't fire away at first. He fires away enough times when he's finally done, then he's firing, right? Sinning. It's amazing to me that that's a challenge for that, right? Impulsive, angry position. That's what we say about this position. Impulsive action position. He could end up making quick decisions. I believe that he could end up, when I go out to eat, he could probably buy my lunch. Okay? Here, he's not going to buy my lunch at all. I won't even go eat with him, right, MG? And then if I continue to be unkind and he goes to his last position, it's like off the chart. His anger is so much, it's like a light switch he can't turn off. Is that right, MG? You ever gotten there, ever? You ever got to the last position where it's just you're so angry, you're mad, you're just boiling, you're fueling? Have you ever gotten there with anybody? So there's two ways. He goes that way or he ends up saying over. Now here's the interesting thing I have found through the years. The most loving people in their first position, many times, that person never comes back in their life. Now, they could feel guilt, and they could have religious beliefs about forgiveness that we think, but some of the people who've broken the relationship who never bring it back are people who are CEEC in their first position. Once it's over, it's over. Movement. Green, I make choices. Yellow, I make choices. Red, I make choices. We understand that you can go from left to right, and we can all go right to left. So I don't want to teach you how to do this because we don't want you to be an expert at this. I want you to go to your digital training platform. Play. Oh, that's right. So in our last class, we talked about movement. And as a team, we want to build out, and we're building out the framework to help you know what I just did. We don't want you to have to do a lot of reps to do that. We just want to show you. So we've built the framework out already. It's in place. We're populating the information as a team to build out by sequence this movement. And in this, There's an audio file for you of listening to me talk about a movement of a sequence, just like I did. We just want you to listen to it, right? So we're going to play it, and Bobby, it's your sequence. So I just want you to, we're going to play the audio file, and then I'm going to come back and talk about what we're showing you as far as information. A sequence. We're building out 4. Yes. A CROE person, I believe, is a very kind and caring and loving person who puts others first, always in their first position. I believe that many times this sequence could end up saying, hey, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Whatever you want to eat, I'll eat. And I have really learned to take that at face value, because what they're really saying by that is that I just want to do what you want to do. I really don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. And it really doesn't. So if you're a sequence that needs to hear, an answer, I don't always believe that this sequence can give that. And so they're really just they continue to put others first, and they continue to put others first, and they don't care. I don't believe that this sequence cares a lot about details and informations at first. I believe they understand the outcomes. I believe they end up seeing the end state quicker. I believe they're a big picture thinker, and that's really good because they don't get bogged down, and they don't get over emotional about the small things, the details in life. And I believe that plays out in so many areas. When it comes to money, it plays out. They don't really care about the pennies. When it comes to parenting, they can end up overlooking a daily issue because they understand what the long game is. And so in this first position, I believe that this is a loving, kind, caring person who needs to know why, who needs to know how, who needs to understand the big picture. Now, if this person moves into their second position, you end up really get a completely different person. And what I mean by that is that you no longer see this love. You end up seeing this quick, not complete anger, but they just end up taking over. They become sort of this passive person who doesn't care to a very controlling person. And they can end up feeling themselves come to that point, and it may be over time. So somebody could disrespect them. And I believe in a first position that this sequence doesn't necessarily tell them that you're disrespecting. I believe if they come across a person they don't like, they just end up avoiding them and never telling them. And I think that's a good strategy. But what happens if they continue to have to deal with this person, they will eventually become somebody who takes over, who's controlling. You end up seeing an outburst. What they used to say is, I don't care, whatever, completely changes. Now they're going to take over, and it's going to be their way. And so I believe that can be really good, because in their first position, they end up procrastinating a lot. In their second position, good thing about it is that they end up getting after some of those things they've been putting off. Like they need to get after those tasks. They need to get after those details. They need to begin getting some of this stuff done. So that second position is not always negative for this sequence. It becomes some positive things, outcomes that come about this level of stress in their lives. Now, as long as this person can end up taking care of those things and bouncing back, in relationships, I believe they could come back and say, I'm sorry, I apologize. And so they go from first to second position. Now, over time, sometimes with people, they go into their third position, which I believe is a really angry, impulsive outburst. I believe it happens very few times in their lives, but if it ever happens, it's not pretty and it doesn't look good, and they feel really bad about it. And so I believe that OE in that last position for this sequence is very rare. And so I believe in those moments, they could end up making impulsive decisions that are not good. I believe they end up, because they're so head in their decision-making process in the middle, that sometimes they don't play out the things they think about because they understand what the why is and what the how is, and so they don't make destructive decisions on the most part for themselves. But when it comes to relationships, if they ever get in this last position, I believe they can be very deadly with their words, be very destructive, and can really cause them problems. If they ever get to that position with relationships, I also believe they will not go back. Like trust is finally broken and they're not going back with those individuals. And that's not always a bad thing. There's some people in our lives that do us no good and we should stay away from them. But I believe for this sequence that choice only takes place in their last position. So Bobby, how do we do? You've never heard that, right? You have anybody you've been in last position with or in your lifetime? Do you have anybody in your life where they're out? Two.
And even in those two, I didn't.
Hold on. Let me just throw it back.
There's two people in my life that I've gotten to that place with, but even with them, I didn't go full bore. What I did is I said, we're done. And we're done. Now I'll go back and I'll be cordial with them, but I will never let them into my life again.
So, we're laying down some audio. We got to, I hate listening to myself, to be truthful with you. We as a team, our team makes me better. Alex listens to this. I don't know how he puts up with me on listening to me, but he takes what we say. And so what we're also trying to do here is also list out first, just to recognize first, second, third position, because we want our squad leaders, we want our junior leaders to recognize what that soldier looks like in second position. We want that mom to recognize what that child looks like in second position, right? Not that it's always bad, but it's like, okay, I see that. So what can we do to help you? How can I connect with you, right? David, you shared. Can I come back and share the cleaning thing? So, because this is where that would really relate. I just want you to say it again because it has to do with recognition of a position that David learned in 2 weeks, but David didn't see or hear that audio. I mean, he's looked at some of our stuff because we're using David to help us, but anyway, just tell your story again. I want them to hear it.
For those who like redundancy, this will make you happy. So 2 weeks ago, well, during the class, we had a boxer. She was 15 years old, and we had to put her down. And so I came home early from the training, and I walked in the door, and my wife was like, hey, Riley's doing really good today. She cleaned her room, she cleaned out the closet and folded every sheet and put it back where it's supposed to go and did all this. And I was like, really? And the night before, I'd given her sequence, and she was just over there sitting, playing on her phone. I was like, are you okay? She was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you cleaned today. That's not you. She's like, well, I'm not excited about what's going on. And so I was like, okay, she's stressed out. She doesn't really show it. She doesn't cry a lot. She doesn't show a lot of emotion, but I knew she was having a rough day based on the fact that she cleaned, which I thought was interesting because I would have never thought that before I'd been like, oh, look, she's ready to start acting like I wanted to act, right?
She did what I wanted her to do.
Yeah.
Right?
But on a green side of her sequence, since going through this, I've stopped pushing her to do her homework. She's eat first. I've stopped telling her to do her homework, and I've noticed that she does it not like I would do it. I have an office. When I go home to do my homework, I sit at the office. I have a schedule that I do it. Everything's nice. But since I've stopped telling her to do things, I'll see her in random spots in the house doing her homework whenever she wants it, laying on the floor, sitting on the couch. But she started doing it without me poking her, which is
she EC?
She is EC, yeah.
So when you see that, affirm that.
Yeah.
When you see that, affirm that.
Yeah. I'll look at her and ask her, I say, you doing homework? And she'll be like, yeah. And I'll be like, cool, good job.
Cool.
She also called me the fun dad the other day.
So movement, again, we're not trying to make you experts at this. We're trying to demonstrate that. We're really trying to put audio in your DDP, and we're trying to right now roll out 32 sequences. In a couple of weeks, we'll have that. Was that our timeline, Michael? And we're trying to just arm you with information about movement so that you can recognize your squads around you, what they look like. If I go home and you guys talk to me, I see you doing something up there. So y'all just get on a mic and tell me. If I go home and my 18-year-old who just flew out right now going to Tennessee for a week, and I just talked on the phone for a minute during break. If I go home and Ceci's room is not clean, that means what? Something's going on with Ceci. And it just lets me understand and recognize it and see it and try to connect, right? And we're going to talk about how to do that tomorrow. So again, we just wanted to show you the movement tool. Oh. Yeah. So we're just trying to give the information, trying to recognize it. Yes.
So maybe I'm a little slow on the uptake, but I think I'm finally getting it. In third position, let me tell me if I'm right. When in third position, the letters, it's like they get flipped on their head. Rational becomes irrational. Organized becomes disorganized. Caring becomes cold. Rational becomes irrational for me.
So not necessarily. I believe that O letter in the last position, and we're really talking this as a team of how to really talk through the nuances of this in a very simple way. We even did this last night as a team, right, guys? Like, where are the letters? What do we need to do? How do we put that in the framework? For the R letter, I would say what your answer is true. For the O letter, I believe that O letter stays in the organized letter there. Why? I don't know. I'm not saying the O letter in the last is disorganized, because here's what I'm saying. If that O is last with David's daughter, she's disorganized in her first position, but the more she gets there, she's going to hit that organized, and she'll do that. So that can be good for David O first. She could get something done, which is good. But if she ends up sitting there for a long time, and the duration in that third position she may have got there for one day. But if she sat there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, emotionally, internally, I think that's very destructive for her.
But in a lot of ways, what you're saying is right. It's just not in all ways where there's this hard and fast formula, but
we're trying to talk through that hard, fast formula to try to get it in an simple, but there's some.
But see, caring in the first position they're not still caring in the last. There's this emotional component, but it's more negative as the stress state increases.
So we just wanted to show you movement. We wanted to talk the concept. We wanted to show how we're trying to build out our digital training platform just to help you and not to try to make you experts at it. Okay? Give you something to consider as you begin to look at yourself, how you make choices, how your family makes choices, how those around you make choices. Okay? All right. Any questions on movement? So let's take a 5-minute break. I need to get with Michael just for a minute on time. So let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back, all right? Hey, Michael, can we talk just for a minute?
My arms are tired and weary. These wounds are on full display. I've tried every door in the hallway. There's just nowhere that I feel